Ladies, I have a fun episode in store for you today, and I am speaking to someone I've been following on social media for a while. We never actually connected on social media, but her team reached out to me, and I have to tell you, I love her. She's amazing. And I have met such cool women on TikTok. I know I've talked about that before here on the podcast, but she is another one that I am adding to my list of really awesome women who are on social media and who are talking about midlife. We talked about Gen Xers. We went down memory lane and talked about things that only Gen Xers will understand. And I know that you will love her as much as I did. But before I bring her in, I'm just going to do a quick intro to who I am. I'm Andrea. I'm a nutritionist for 20 plus years. I'm a menopause educator, a published menopause researcher, and I'm the co-founder of wearemorphus.com, a company that helps to educate and empower you to take control of your health and symptoms with nutrition, lifestyle, supplements, and research. Today, I'm speaking with the real Slim Sherri, a fierce advocate for women's health and well-being. Sherri uses her raw honesty and comedic edge to tackle important topics like embracing bodily changes, navigating the complexities of middle age, and finding joy in the messiness of life. Her mission: to help women laugh through the chaos, love who they are, and take control of their journey, all while living unapologetically on their own terms. With a blend of heartfelt insights on authenticity, mental wellness, and practical tips on self-care and holistic living, Sherri's message resonates deeply with audiences who crave genuine connection and no-nonsense advice. Her unfiltered voice, entrepreneurial drive, and passion for helping others have made Sherri a sought-after speaker and influencer within the Gen X and wellness communities. Whether sharing a laugh, powerful lesson, or empowering message, Sherri Dindal delivers an engaging and uplifting experience that leaves people feeling inspired, informed, and ready to fully embrace their unique journey, wrinkles, gray hairs, and all. Now, here's Sherri. Welcome to Menopause Reimagined, Sherri.
Well, thanks for having me.
So I'm excited to have you because I've seen you on social media, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners have too. And I would love you to share your story as to what inspired you. I know you started around the same time I did, and you're on a tour, like you've just exploded. And I would love you to share your story so that you can inspire our listeners.
Yes, well, thank first. Yeah, I know I said it, but let me thank you again for having me. I really think the conversation here is going to be fantastic, and I'm looking forward to it. My story, well, like so many other people during the COVID years, I got onto TikTok. I got COVID like so many other people. I was just laying in bed scrolling constantly to kind of mind numbing, got nothing else to do. And I before that moment, I really wasn't on TikTok. I just, like I said, I was stuck in bed and I was bored, and so I'm like, let me see what this is all about. And at that time, it was still a lot of trends and whatnot. But I remember thinking, I could do this. I could do this. And I thought at the beginning that I would use it for my business because I have a few businesses, but my big one is my skincare company. And I thought, oh, I could use this for my company. Well, it just never turned into that. I made a few videos, trying to get something going for my company, and then I don't know. One day I just thought just going to make a funny video because I was seeing funny videos and those inspired me. I'm going to make a funny video, and so I did. Not ever. I never set out thinking anybody was going to see any of these videos. It was not something I didn't set out thinking I was going to have millions of followers. That was completely by accident. But I thought, I'll put them out here, and nothing really happened. I got a few views here, a few views there, nothing really big. But then one day I made a video about, being Gen X, sounds only Gen X here. And to be transparent with the people listening, before TikTok, I did not identify as a Gen Xer. That was not in my vocabulary. I mean, we
That's
just didn't
funny.
grow up calling ourselves Generation X. It was just not a thing. And so, but I'd seen some videos about Gen X, and remember thinking, I think that's me. That's my generation. So I made a funny video, and the sound sounds only Gen X here is just like the opening notes
Yeah.
from
And right
like
away, you're like, I know the song.
you only need like 1, 2 seconds, not even 2 seconds, and the moment you hear the note, it's like a dog whistle, right? You're
Yeah,
like, woo.
totally.
And so that video, I posted it, went on about my life, and the next day I log into TikTok, and that video had gone viral, and I picked up like 40,000 followers, and I was like, what in the world is this? I didn't even know what to do that. And so I started making more content about being Gen X. I was just talking about how we grew up and, make poking fun, just a lot of fun about the kind of crazy way our feral generation grew up.
Yeah.
And I get bored really easily. So I picked up a lot of followers from that. But then eventually I was like, I'm not I'm so much more than just this one thing. Cause like I said, I didn't really, Gen X was not my vocabulary before that. The only generation of my vocabulary at that time was millennial. Everybody talked about millennials and boomers, really. Nobody talked about anything else. And so I was making Gen X videos, but I got bored. So I was like, what else? I know I could talk about other things. And so I started talking about midlife because I was right around the time that I was about to turn 50. And I was so in my head about turning 50.
Oh my
It
gosh,
was
yes.
just such a mind. Can I swear on here?
Absolutely.
It
Go
was
ahead.
such a mind fuck for me. I spent my entire year 48 talking about turning 50, thinking I was already 49. So that pissed me off because I wasted all of year 48 thinking that I was 49 and
Yeah.
then having to do that year all over again. So I worried about turning 50 for like 2 years. And so I was talking about turning 50, about midlife. I was talking, a lot about, I wasn't in menopause yet, but I also didn't know anything about really not, didn't know shit about perimenopause. So I think I was in the thick of it. I was in the part where I was about to I wanted to burn it all down, just burn it all. And so that stuff started to pour out about making jokes about menopause and being 50 and midlife and aging. And all this stuff just sort of poured out of this turning 50, this coming of age, if you will, is what I consider it, like a coming of age. Even though Gen X is never really going to grow up, we're sort of perpetually
Oh
at it.
yeah. It's
So
exactly.
it was also that fear of like, holy shit, I'm turning 50 and my life is where did 50 years go? I think I joke around a lot about the fact that we're the smallest generation because a lot of us didn't make it, right? There was some crazy shit going on. We didn't have any seat belts or helmets and shit. Like we were just doing really wild shit. And so I was like, thinking about the fact that so many of us really didn't plan to get this far in life. Like we didn't. So turning 50, I was like, I didn't plan for this. I didn't think I was going to live this damn long. Only the good die young is what we were always told. So I was like, what am I supposed to do with my life? What do you do after you turn 50? The end is near. This was my sort of like moment turn. That was my fear at 50. And then I turned 50 and something really magical happened, which was this sort of unraveling of all of the bullshit that I've carried around my entire life, all
Yeah.
the baggage, all the layers of conditioning, and all the bullshit other people gave me.
Programs.
All of it. And all that just started to slowly, not really slowly, it sort of rapidly started falling off of me. And there's sort of, in that moment, this awakening, I feel like happened, where I was like,
Yeah.
finally coming into my own. Like, this is my coming of age. And so I started really making more videos about that. I really fell into this space of like wanting to inspire other women, not just women, guys too, but mostly women, inspiring women to just be their authentic selves, to like let go of all that shit and just be who you are before the world told you who to be. And so that, though my daily dose of Slim Sherry videos started to come out and just what happened is over time, 3.5 years, I've just slowly built this really amazing community of people that are like me too. And that's what really started with the Gen X videos was like I grew up under the impression that my story was just my story, right? Like that nobody else lived like I did, that nobody will. I didn't know everybody else was a latchkey kid. I didn't know everybody else walked themselves to kindergarten by themselves. I didn't know everybody else was told to go play in traffic, or stop that crying, or I'll give you something to cry. I didn't. And then I made these videos and what I start reading the comments and there's so much of this like me too or that's my story or do you have a camera in my house or how do you know like
Yeah.
you're telling my tales and that was really comforting to me to know that I hadn't lived all those experiences by myself and so fast forward like I said what's come of that is this amazing community of people that are like-minded or have similar experiences and it's been a wild ride, and what's come from that is a tour, a comedy tour. Not a comedian, by the way. I am now, but people were like, are you on tour?" And I was like, "No, I'm not on tour. I'm just in my house making videos or in my damn car. Like I'm not." But me and some other Gen X creators got together and decided we would do a comedy tour so that people the number one question we often get is how can I meet you? How can I come see you? And so we put ourselves out there so that people could come and give us a hug and hang out with us. And so many women tell me how I've changed their lives. and it somehow inspired them to, either get out of whatever they're in or to just, do something different with their life, or just somehow I've changed their life. And I never thought making videos that would ever be something I would do. But here I am, and now 6 million plus followers later. And I'm in the process of writing a book, and there's just a lot going on in my life, but it's an amazing experience, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
I love it. Well, first of all, congratulations. I think that's really exciting. And, it's funny because as Gen Xers, we're so much of that forgotten generation, right? We talk about the boomers, we talk about the millennials, the Gen Zs, and then the Gen Xers were like, what about us? Hello, what about us? And that's why I could see how it resonated so much. And especially, so I live on TikTok, not so much on the other social channels as much, but I live on TikTok and I could see the trends that are out there. And every time I never pass up a Gen X video because again, those music videos and the note, I'm like, yeah, me too. Or like it kind of helps you go down memory lane to be able to be like, yeah, wow, like it brings back so many memories. Or you're looking at Barbies like that I lit like, oh my God, I think I had every Barbie under the sun, right? And then like you have these feelings and it brings up these emotions when you're watching those videos. So I could see how much that resonates with women. So I could see why you did so well. And like when you were saying about turning 50, it's funny. I actually stressed for 3 years before turning 50. I started at 47. I did a video when I turned 50. Actually, I posted it when I was 53, but I did it when I was 50. And it's literally, I was so stressed about turning 50 because I was like, am I going to be relevant anymore? And I had this is before Morphus. I had another company in the natural health space. And I'm like, anybody going to want to work with me? Like all of these thoughts were going through my brain of like, wow, 50 years old. 50 to me at the time meant old. And I didn't even like, I had started getting hot flashes. I didn't even know what menopause was, with perimenopause. So like, it was like all these emotions because nobody spoke to us about any of it. So kind of, I guess it kind of is, if you think about it, it's kind of an alignment with being a Gen Xer where we kind of just grew up ourselves, right?
Just accidentally discovered menopause and perimenopause. Like that does it does fit the Gen X narrative, no doubt. Is like we've just had to figure shit out on our own our entire lives. And so this should be no different than anything else. And so I love going back to something you were saying about, turning 50 and like fear of being relevant. I think that, that's one of the things that I've wanted to chip away at. And one of my overarching messages is sort of like, or I guess goals for me is like the idea of disrupting and destroying the concept of age and like aging, especially in women, because
Yeah.
men as they age, they become distinguished, right?
Foxes. Yep.
Whatever, they're distinguished. Women, however, once we are past our childbearing age, then we no longer are relevant. When they call us, hags, or we're past our prime, or we're over the hill. There's all these labels that society gives us that I think we grew up with, that we have carried around this concept of what old is. And so for me, 50 was this really big number because it
Huge.
was sort of the
Yeah.
line where it's like, yeah, when you get past this, you're old, right? That was the narrative that they had sold us. That's the one we've carried around. And even when you look back at old shows, sitcoms from the 80s, like take the Golden Girls, for example.
Oh my gosh.
Those
Yeah.
women were in their 40s when
Yeah.
they did that show, and they looked so much older. Now they might have made them look older, but even like Archie Bunker, and you look at their age, those guys were in their 40s.
Yeah.
They looked old, and they were only in their 40s. And here we are, Gen X. I feel like most of us are aging pretty damn well. Okay.
Yeah.
Considering how
Amazing.
hard
Yeah.
we've
It's
lived,
true.
we are aging pretty damn well. And so, to look back at that and think, God, that was what we perceived to be old, right? They looked old, they acted old. And here we are. I think I said this to you earlier. I don't know if I've said it here on the podcast about how Gen Xers are perpetually adolescent. Like we're never going to grow up. We were Toys R Us kids.
Yeah.
We were told we didn't have to grow up, right? And so I think I joke we took that jingle very, very seriously
Seriously.
because we're not growing up.
Yeah.
And so hitting 50s feels very mature. It feels very like, wow, I'm older. I'm old. I've stopped saying it, but I did for a while. I was like, I'm old. I'm old. I'm old. Till my kid one day, she would have been 9 at the time, we were driving in the car. I was about to turn 50 and she was in the back seat. And I said something about, I don't forget. Oh, we were talking, Pink Panther was on. I don't know why it was like the jingle was on the radio. And she was like, and I was singing along with it or humming along with it. And she's like, what is that? And I was like, it's the Pink
Mm.
Panther. And she's like, what's that? And I was like, well, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I remember telling her it's like, it's from a long time ago. And I was like, it's however it came up, I said I was old. I don't remember exactly the conversation. I just remember the Pink Panther thing. And she went, "You're not old." And I said, "Well, sweetie, I'm gonna be 50 in a couple of months." And she was like, "So what?" And it was
Mm.
out of the mouth of a child.
Yeah, it's the
And
best.
sort of this before the world got a hold of her, right? That was like, so what? Like you're and it hit me. It was sort of this aha moment of like, yeah, so what? Like, so what that I'm gonna be 50? I don't feel 50. I don't feel physically or mentally like I'm 50. And so I had to kind of check myself. I had to sort of change my own like perspective about how I viewed myself because
Yeah.
that was something the world gave me. The world gave me this idea of who I was or I was going to be when I turned a certain age. And so I have ripped all that shit off. And so every time somebody likes to tell me like you're not young, you're 52 or whatever, I'm like, so what? You're as young as you want to be. You are whatever you want to be. You define
Mm.
for yourself what age looks like. And that that old saying of age is just a number, I've gone beyond that. Age is not a number. It is, but it's really a mindset.
Mm.
And so
Total
it's
mindset.
stepping into that mindset of like, if you tell yourself you're old, you feel like you're old, you act like you're old, then
You're
maybe
gonna be old.
maybe you are going to be old. That's going to be your fate,
Yeah.
right? That's going to be whatever you've manifested it to be. I choose to go through life looking at it going, 52, I'm lucky to be here. I'm grateful that I'm here. It's a privilege to age. And I am only as old as I feel and as I allow myself to be. And so some days I'm 52, some days I'm 12, some days I'm 80. It just depends on what day it is, you know? And so it really is about mindset. It's about, and especially as women get into the phase of perimenopause, but not as much peri as menopause. You do
Yeah.
hit, I can look back at my 40s and see the years I was in perimenopause and didn't know. I can look back and go, oh, I see it. I see all the signs that were there that I wasn't aware of. And I do want to share with women younger than me, like this is what is coming for you. I hate to put it that way, but this is what's coming because women deserve to know. They deserve to be more prepared
Yeah.
than what they are. But then you hit menopause. Like, first of all, thank you, Jesus. I don't have a period anymore. That I'm very thankful for. But what I traded for that is a whole different set of issues, right? Like, and that's the shitty part about being a woman is like you go through your entire life, women having periods, having babies, having all this, bloated and just, all the shit that women go through, getting mammograms and, all that shit. And then you hit this point in life where you're like, yes, I'm finally rid of my period. And then you get 20 other things to replace your period: joint pain, hot flashes, mood swings. I mean, I pretty much live most days feeling somewhere between happy and homicidal. Like that is sort of where you fluctuate when you're menopausal. But we just need to do a better job of educating so the women are more prepared for it. But I wasn't, and so once I hit that phase, I find myself wanting to let women know that that is not the defining moment for you when you're like past your prime. You're never too old. You're never too late. I'm a great example of that. 52 years old and just starting a comedy tour. I've never been a comedian in my whole life. 52 writing my first book. 52 being a content creator. The number of people who would like to tell me that I should get off the internet because of my age. I mean,
What? That's crazy. I know I see that
oh
all
yeah.
the time. I thank goodness I haven't experienced that on my social media platforms, but like it's amazing to me how you have these keyboard warriors, but like and who's saying it? Like if you actually look at their profile, you're like, okay,
A
troll,
lot of them,
old
they're
lady.
bots or whatever, but
Oh, come
there are
on. It's
some
like
out there
so
that are real people that
it's
are probably in their
crazy.
mother's basements or some shit.
And just want to make you feel awful about yourself.
They do. There's some really miserable people in the
Horrible.
world that do sit around and troll people. And I used to do a lot more clapback videos where I would clap back at
Yeah.
those. I don't do them as much anymore because that's not really what I want my
Yeah.
platform to be. People love them though. My clapback videos always do really well because I will hand you your ass on a silver platter very quickly. But, you know, I did make a video once where I was like, the internet is an incredibly amazing thing where people just feel compelled to be able to say anything and everything to anyone with zero repercussions.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I was growing up, if you talked shit to somebody, you got punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. Is we don't spend enough time face to face talking shit to each other anymore because we used to do that's how we squashed that shit. We threw hands and then
True.
we moved on. Now you're like stuck. And for some people, I got a pretty hard exterior. I can take a lot of shit, but some people can't. And it really is discouraging to some people, especially women who get told that kind of stuff. And then they either quit when they don't need to quit, but they quit because they can't handle that, or they internalize that somehow and it somehow reinforces whatever negative beliefs they have about themselves.
Yeah.
There's all these, not that it doesn't happen to men, it does happen to guys too, but it's getting a little bit out of hand because you've got, internet trolls out there and internet bullying that's happening that, is leading to some pretty serious situations where, some people have taken their own lives, which is wild to me. And so that kind of stuff, I think there needs to be some sort of check and balance, I guess, for that. But yeah, people feel compelled to tell me all kinds of shit, like get off the internet, you old hag,
Oh my
shit like
gosh.
that, But if I catch that comment, they're going to get something in return, usually from me, because I don't.
Yeah. That's
Luckily,
crazy.
I feel strong enough in who I am that I'm like I don't internalize that. But in the beginning, it was difficult to sort of not sit there and question, like, do I not belong here? TikTok in the beginning, like I said, was sort of this dance trends, and everybody thought it was an app for kids. And then, here we are showing up. The old people are showing up, and in the beginning, I did question, like, maybe I shouldn't be here. Maybe this isn't for me. But there is a space everywhere for everyone, and you just have to choose. I dust out your little corner and plop your ass down, be like, this is mine, and I'm not leaving.
And own it. And I actually really love TikTok. And I know you and I were talking before. I just find the energy so nice. I find our community is so nice. The women are just, I don't know, I have such an incredible community, as I know you do. Like, to me, I just love the energy and the vibe on TikTok. And I find that people want to learn, and especially the over 50 part of TikTok. So I did a video years ago. It was probably like 2 years ago. I walked into a store and there was this young cashier kind of checking people out. And we started talking about something, and the topic of TikTok came up, and she was like, "Oh, TikTok, it's like for younger people." And I had already been on TikTok for a bit at that point, and I was like, "Well, I really am very familiar with TikTok." Like, she just assumed I didn't know what it was because of my age. So it was kind of funny. But there is such a huge community of over 40, over 50, over 60, like over 80. Like, there are some I
Yes.
follow, it's Granny Draniak.
Yes,
Is that
yes. No, there's a couple
She's
like
like in
that
her
out there.
90s. Like,
I
she's
know.
amazing. And her videos are hilarious, And that you look at women who are just owning it. Like, I love to hear that you're just like, fuck it, this is who I am. I
Yeah,
don't need to pretend to be someone else, and you have thick skin. But you look at her and she's like lived such an incredible life, and she's hilarious too.
I
And she's
know.
just
I
like,
know.
this is me, take it or leave it.
No, I think that I love that because especially like in that like the 70s, 80s, 90s, like they get to leave. All of us are leaving sort of this something behind that we never could have imagined. Our generations and generations before never could have imagined that we would have this
Yeah.
opportunity to leave behind a footprint, right? So when we are gone, the internet's forever, they say, right? Like, so that's there for my kids, for my family, for my
Yeah.
friends, for whoever, right? They get to do that same. That so 70, 80, 90-year-olds, 100-year-olds that are making these amazing, incredible videos, sharing their stories, sharing their journey, sharing their nuggets of wisdom with people and leaving behind something for the people who come after them. And I
Mm.
love that. I love that the internet has allowed that type of a space that, where in the past you would have had to depend on pictures, right? We used to print pictures out for the
Yeah.
young people, the people in the back that don't know. We used to have to go to the damn pharmacy and turn in our film roll and get it developed and pray to God that some of those pictures turned out, right? And now you can you can put every picture that you've ever taken on your phone if you want on the internet, and it lives there forever. And I think that's an amazing thing because I look back, I don't have a lot from like my childhood and stuff. I don't have a lot from those years. And I love that for I have 11 and 14-year-old girls, and I have a 35-year-old son. Yes, 21 years between the two. That there's something there for them, in the event that, I should meet an early demise or something.
How do your kids feel about you being on social media?
It was a little weird in the beginning. I think they were younger. This was 3.5 years ago. So my 14-year-old was 11 at that time. Not even, she was 10 and a half. They didn't quite understand it. They knew TikTok. They did little dance trends and stuff. They thought it was cringy. I remember the cringe factor early on, but now they're so used to it.
Yeah.
And they're very aware because people come up to me in public all the time. Like we can't go anywhere without me getting stopped. And so they're very used to that. And they think it's pretty awesome, to be honest. My son especially, because he's older and he can appreciate, he really when he'll have friends who will he's had friends send him videos and they're like, look at this video, haha, and he'd be like, that's my mom, and they're like, well, people he works with because he's a teacher. And so some of the women in the office or whatever, they follow me. And so it was wild for him the first time. They were like, "This is your mom?" They couldn't believe it. But anyway, they think it's awesome. I love that, these kids are practically not my oldest, but the two younger ones. They're basically born with a damn phone in their hand
Yeah.
or an iPad nowadays. They're so used to it and they're way smarter than I am. Like they're like TikTok. This is what they really feel. TikTok is a has-been. They're all on Snapchat and shit.
Snapchat,
And
yeah.
they know I'm not on Snapchat. So, because I'm like, I don't quite understand how that works. Not only that, I don't need one more platform to freaking manage. I got
Oh
enough.
my gosh. My kids, so my daughter, I've had three kids, a 22-year-old, a 20, and a 14-year-old as well. And my middle daughter, she's like, I'm putting you on Snapchat. And the only thing I knew about Snapchat is like filters. I'm like, oh, I do not want to learn a whole other social media platform, right? She's like, no, 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 we're putting on a family chat. So she set me up. And in the beginning, I mean, it's really funny because you have all of these like ridiculous filters, and we were just kind of laugh. It definitely
Right.
makes me laugh. Like it's funny. But now I realized, Sherry, like seriously, like I could text my kids, no answer. No answer. No, I call them,
But
text,
you
no
snap
answer.
them.
I snap them within 3 seconds. I have an answer. I'm like, are you kidding me?
I
I'm like,
should try that with mine because they don't answer me either.
I'm telling you, that is the secret. I'm not even kidding you, within 3 seconds, I have an answer and I have a video and I have a picture. And I'm like, okay, this is the secret to communicating with my kids. Like, you have to try it because other than the
Maybe for
filter,
just communicating with my kids, but I've been told by some people like Snapchat's the next big thing. You need to get on Snapchat. They would love you. And I'm like, no. I
yeah.
first of all, what am I snapping? Like, what? I make videos. I don't snap pictures of myself. That's not what I do. But maybe I need to figure it out for my
I
kids.
do feel really like it's actually funny you say that. Like I don't take pictures of myself. So like the way Snapchat works for those of you who are listening, and if you don't have kids or you're not on Snapchat, like literally, at least the way my kids are using it, like they're taking videos of themselves half the time, or pictures of themselves, or like what's
Yeah,
around
but I
them.
don't understand. Like, where does it go? What are they doing with that? Who are they sending the shit to? And then it disappears.
It disappears. They're sending it to their friends. But like now what happened now that I'm on Snapchat, my kids' friends, like my youngest, their friends have now friended me on Snap and they're sending me pictures and I'm like, okay, wait a second. This just feels so weird to me to like
Why
take
am
a
I?
picture of
Why?
myself. I'm like, no, not gonna happen. So
Well,
like I take a picture of my daughter and I send it to them. I'm like, it feels
I
so
know
weird to me.
my kids have this thing that's like every day they have this alert that goes off where you're supposed to snap a picture of whatever you're doing right then and there in that moment. You only have like 10 seconds to
Oh
do it
my
or some
God,
shit.
it's so
And so I'm like, I don't understand that. What are you guys doing? Is this how what? Here's how I see that. This is what they do to hang out now. I'm like, we
yeah,
used to
that's how they
hang out
communicate.
together. Like we would do you guys like people so little that you can't like get together and you have to snap each other? Like, what am I doing right this second, right now? And that's how they communicate with each other. And it's wild because I was sitting, my daughters do theater and they had theater this weekend. They did a big Shrek production. They did 5 shows. Anyway, my son was sitting next to me in the audience yesterday, and the entire show he's snapping like snaps of the show, and I'm like, what are you doing? You can't. It made me sad because he wasn't like, I felt like he was missing part of the show because he's too busy, and that's what I feel like these kids are doing now is they snap every little thing And that's like their new Instagram. But then my problem with that is, like I said, it disappears. Like
Yeah,
you
it goes
did
away.
that and then it's gone. There's no record of it, which is a little scary actually. When it comes to like teenagers, because they do. I know what I was doing when I was 14.
But
Thank
there
God
were no
there was
there
no
were
internet.
no internet, no camera, no phone, like not capturing it
Thank
like it is
God,
today.
because let me tell
Different
you.
generation, like
Woo.
100% different generation back then. But yeah, no, it's very interesting the way our kids kind of, but I love the fact that we're Gen Xers. And even my mom, by the way, who's a baby boomer, is totally tech savvy. Like she has embraced technology. She's like, and so have we in many cases, maybe not all of us, but a lot of us have, which I think is great. So we're kind of like in that interesting area, like, or in between, kind of like we're not as much as our kids, maybe, or maybe we are, but yet, anyways, and teaching our parents, I love it. I think it's great that,
No,
we're kind of,
I mean, I think we bring a little bit of, here's the sad part for me. When the Zennials, not Gen X, because I don't discount them. So that's your millennials born between like 80, 85. When we're all gone, we're the kind of the last of the analog world.
yeah.
So we bridge a world where we remember analog, and
Hmm.
we also were coming of age when technology really
This was
started to
coming out. Yeah. The
so when the
ringing,
internet became, was
the
invented,
dial up.
dialing the shit with that eerie freaking noise in the
Yeah. Oh
background,
my gosh.
getting kicked off because somebody picked up the phone. Uh, those
I
moments,
remember it so well.
we remember a world that didn't have that, right?
Yeah.
So even though I live very, very firmly planted in this world that we live in now, I was able to sit with my son yesterday and watch him and think, you're missing so much because you're too
Mm.
busy trying to capture. And I know he was probably trying to share it with whoever he wanted to share with, but it's just, we remember a time when you lived in the now, right? We lived in the moment. We weren't trying to capture everything in the perfect picture, or, you're just living in the now, in the moment. And I feel bad a little bit for the kids today, where they just don't know a world that exists like that because they never lived it. They didn't live in an analog world where I tell my kids all the time, when they whine that they're bored. I'm like, bored? Like, bored is how I learned to push a mower in
They
90
don't
degrees
know what bored
weather.
means. They
Well,
have no clue.
bored is how you got a laundry list of chores to do. Okay. And bored is how you ended up at the gas station with a handwritten note to buy cigarettes for your mother when you were 7. There's no reason you should be bored. You have all of this technology at your disposal. Go poke something with a stick and leave me alone, right? Like, go outside. But we did. We didn't have a choice. We went outside because there was nothing else to do. Because we went outside because if we stayed inside, they would put us to work. Well, idle fingers got into trouble, right? So they were always keeping us busy. And I think that's why I can't sit still now as an adult, is because we really didn't sit still. These kids are better at being okay with sitting still, but they don't know how to entertain themselves beyond a screen. And I'm sad for that. I'm like, go make mud. We ate mud. We ate mud. We ate mud pies. Like, go make a mud pie. That's why
How
tease.
how about sitting in the car going on a long trip? I remember I was 12 and I was in grade 6 going to grade 7, and we drove to California. So I'm from Montreal originally. We drove to California and it took us like a week to get there, a week to go home. We went through the Canadian Rockies on the way back, through Arizona on the way there. And I remember, I mean, we had no technology. What board? We had books and we had those, remember those like
They,
coloring books that you can
yes,
highlight
and
with like
did you peel them? Are you talking about the peely ones?
you
Yes.
you had the peeling ones, but then you can also like fill it in. So like they had this like yellow tip, but it was invisible, and then you could like
Oh, yeah,
highlight
yeah,
it
yeah,
and it
yeah.
made it
And
show.
then you can do it again.
That was our entertainment. And I remember crying and begging my dad to drive because I was so bored. That was boredom. Like
Yeah. Or
nowadays, they don't have that.
did you have the water game where you like pushed it and you'd try to get the hoop onto the, this is what that was our
Oh
early
my
edition
gosh.
of like what these kids play with today. Was like, we had etch a sketches. We didn't have
Yeah, the
tablets.
etch a sketch.
The etch a sketch was our tablet, okay? And you could shake it up and start over again. But yeah, they just, we had to be really creative
Yeah.
on how we entertained ourselves. And I do think that makes us not to take anything away from the younger people, because this is not in any way meant to come out that way. But I think because of the fact that we had to find ways to entertain ourselves, we are a very creative bunch of people, right? We are, and we're creative. We're do it ourselves, do it yourselfers, because we had to figure shit out on our own, and
Yeah.
so we do a lot for ourselves. And I think we kind of invented that DIY sort of well, not words are hard, by the way, not method, but DIY trend, if you will, early on, like early 90s, late 90s, that DIY, because we were used to doing a lot for ourselves. And
Yeah.
so we did that. And so I think it makes us really interesting, creative people that are hitting midlife, where we're like, I can do anything. Like, I think we have most Gen Xers have this attitude that we can do anything. And that's because we had to, not because nobody told us we could do anything. Our teachers and parents weren't really telling us, you can be
If
anything.
anything, it was the opposite. I remember
Yeah,
in a lot of.
you're a loser. You're a slacker. You're like, we were like labeled so many things. But we still came out of that. We got so used to doing for ourselves and learning how to tinker with shit and figure stuff out
Yeah.
that we have sort of fell into this midlife phase where it's like, I can still do anything. My knees still think they can do a lot of things that they can't do. But in our brains, we just believe we can do anything because we always have. And so I think it makes us a really interesting group of aging people, that we're not just going to go quietly and sit in our recliners and take a nap and fall asleep at 8 o'clock every night and, eat whatever, food by 5 because I'm going to get heartburn if I don't. Like I eat pizza at midnight still. I still stay up till 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. Like I still do crazy shit that most people my age aren't, most people think we're not supposed to be doing. And I think that's a
It's
lot of us.
it's really interesting because like, and you alluded to this before, like in our brains, like so our actual age, okay, so I'm 55, but in my brain, I'm like still in my 30s. Like I really truly am like how so many times I will look at my kids or I'll look at my husband, I'll be like, how do I have three children? Like I'm like, wait a minute, aren't I still like in high school or university? Like it's so
Right.
strange to me sometimes to actually like my brain is in one place, but yet I'm like in a whole other place. I'm like, oh my gosh. I remember looking at pictures of my mother when she was 45, and I'm like, she is old. Like she looks old. And I'm like, wait a second, I'm like 10 years older than her than she was
Yeah.
at that age. And I'm like, so like it's just such a
But
I
they
don't know.
were
I love
aging
Gen Xers.
differently back then. I do, like I was mentioning about the Golden Girls and Archie Bunker and shows like that. I do think there's some of that might be because they just lived a harder,
Harder life. Yeah.
things manufacturing wise, things were still being a lot done by hand then, and they worked harder in the fields, and so whatever. Life was, it was just harder, I think,
Yeah.
for especially
Yeah.
our grandparents. They really had it like tough, right? And so I don't know if that's what aged them or if it was just the times, like what they lived through. When you think about the era in which they lived through, I don't know if that aged them rapidly. But they just seemed older at 45, or it's because our young 10-year-old brains perceived 45 to be really old. I don't know, but yeah, I
I don't
look at it
know.
now and think at 52, looking at my mom at 52, I mean, I don't, she also looked a lot older than I do.
Yeah.
And I'm 52. And like I said, in my brain, some days I'm 12,
Hmm.
and then some days I feel 30. And it's wild because when I look at 52, I think, gosh, I can't, 52 years. How have I been here 52 years? It doesn't feel like 52 years. I don't feel like I've lived that long, but I'm here. I mean, I've lived very, very fulfilling life. I've lived a really rapid life, I would say that. And then yes, 3 kids, that'll age you for sure. But yeah, it's wild because I look and go, I don't feel like I've been here 52 years. I feel like I've been here maybe, maybe 30 stretching it. And so I think some of that has to do with our sort of young free spirit, is that we're, when time flies when you're having fun, I guess, that's how I'll put it.
And then on the other hand, I say, we don't feel like it, but then I'm like, wait, all of these years that we have lived, we've learned so much. We've experienced so much. And we're able now to share that with our kids, with the younger generation who are now coming into perimenopause. And so for me, I just had a podcast recently where I was interviewing someone who's 44, and she's like, you are, 10 years or 11 years ahead of me. You've lived more. And I'm like, yeah. So like we have a different wisdom as we have lived and we're going into this phase of life. So to me, I'm just so grateful that I'm grateful for the life that I've had. And I know, I don't want to hear your opinion too, but I'm just so grateful for all of the lived experience, the good, the bad, the really ugly, the really
Yeah.
amazing, so which has shaped us to where we are today. And just circling back to when I was saying that I was anxious about turning 50 when I was 47, I remember listening to a podcast. It was an Oprah podcast. It was just before my 50th. And she was talking to some women, and I've shared this story before. And I was like, she said, like, I don't understand how women have an issue with aging because as we age, we have so much more experience under our belt and we're able to share that and communicate that. And I couldn't hearing Oprah say that was actually what made me turn 50 with such pride. And I'm like, yeah, forget all of that other bullshit that I was thinking about because 50 comes with so much more. And I was so proud. And I'm very proud of my age now. And I'm proud to talk about where I'm at. So it kind of like, it's like something shifts, right? In the way that we now have both
Yeah, no, I would agree. I mean, I also feared turning 50. Like I said, it was I don't know, there was something monumental about that, but not in a positive way for me. It was like scary. Like
Yeah,
I'm turning
yeah.
50. I think there was some parts of me that were looking at like I think you think once you hit a certain age like everything's going to go rapidly downhill and like you start to become more aware of your mortality and like all so that for me was all stuff that was looming as well of turning 50. But then once I did it, like I said, it was like holy shit, like this is it was an incredible like
Awesome.
like a door had been opened for me or like
Mhm.
something
Yeah,
had been unlocked, like I leveled up, I unlocked a level, and I was like wow, this is amazing. And so yes, you have like this still I still feel very connected to my youth, but yes, I do also feel like I've stepped into this space of like wisdom that I didn't have or I did have, I just
totally.
hadn't unlocked it.
Yeah,
How to share experiences and inspire people, empower people, educate people, give people something to look forward to. Young people, when youth is wasted on the young. There's no doubt. When you're young, you believe you have your entire life ahead of you, and you do, hopefully. Hopefully, you have an entire life ahead of you, but you have your whole life ahead of you, right? And you don't you look at old people and think that's never going to be me. It is going to be you if you're lucky enough to get there. And when you do, it's all this stuff you get to bring with you that hopefully you get to a point that somebody has helped guide you or shared wisdom with you that when you get to that space in life, you're willing to share that with others. And that's something I always wish that I had
yeah,
had that I didn't feel like I don't feel like I did was
yeah,
I didn't have sort of anybody sharing that wisdom with me or a mentor if you will or a guide in some way because life is tough especially if you're rolling through it by yourself. And so I got to that place and was like okay, I feel this space where I feel wiser, I feel like I have experiences to share. I feel like I have, something to offer. And I chose to share that. And that's really what I do now is not just the
yeah,
funny stuff,
yeah,
but I want to empower and inspire, especially younger women,
yeah, 100%.
and guys. Like I said, I don't discount the guys, but 80% of my demographic is female. I know what the numbers are, but I still have 20% of the guys that follow me. But just to like, meet life where you are right now, right? Like we always are trying, I feel like we spend so much of our lives trying to achieve whatever is out there that, our goals and what we aspire to. And that's great to have goals and aspire, but we often forget to live present in this moment and appreciate life for what it has to offer right now. And I think what especially social media and technology is robbing young people of is the opportunity to experience the experience when it's happening rather than being like
Yeah,
this trying to capture the moment. Be just try to spend more time being present and being in the moment, and that's where the experience and the wisdom and um, the mindset comes from. And so it took me a long time to get there. Stop always chasing something that's out there and just sort of, and I think age brings that to you. Age, young people, like I said, it's wasted on the youth. Youth is wasted on the young, where they're chasing something all the time. And I do think we finally hit a point, especially 50, where you're
Mm.
like, okay, I don't need to chase everything all the time anymore. You're able to slow down in a way that
Yeah.
allows you to appreciate life differently than what I did the first 50 years.
Well, I think that is beautifully said, and it's a great way to end the interview. So thank you for sharing your wisdom. And by the way, I agree with you 100%. So
Thank you.
can you share with everyone how they could find you? And I mean, I literally can probably go on and on all day with you, but it's like it's been really fun getting to know you.
Oh,
So
likewise.
share where people can find you and
Yes,
follow.
I'm easy to find. You can just go to therealslimsherry.com and all my links are there. Or you can find me on TikTok and Instagram as The Real Slim Sherry. I'm also on YouTube as The Real Slim Sherry, but you can just go to realslimsherry.com. All my social links are there. My company, Wholesome Hippie, is there. Information about my tour is there. Everything is there and easy to put it all in one place.
I love it. Thank you so much for doing this today, Sherri.
Oh, thank you for having me. I've really enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Sherri as much as I did. That was such a fun podcast to kind of go down memory lane, talk about being a Gen Xer, the forgotten generation. So if you enjoyed it, please share it, because the more you share shows you care. And please take a moment to leave a review for our podcast, Menopause Reimagined, because then more people can listen to our incredible guests. Thank you for spending the last little bit with me. I know there's a lot you could be doing, but instead you chose to spend your time with me. And for that, I am grateful. I'll see you at the next interview.